Picture this. You're lying in bed at 3 in the morning. Your heart is racing, your mind is spinning through worst-case scenarios like a slot machine from hell, and you're wondering if you're the only person who feels this crushing weight of anxiety. Now imagine I told you that right now, in this exact moment, you're experiencing the same physiological response that saved your ancestors from being eaten by predators, except there's no predator. There's just your mind creating tigers out of shadows, and the most fascinating part is that ancient civilizations figured out how to tame these phantom tigers using techniques so effective that modern neuroscience is only now beginning to understand why they work. What I'm about to share with you isn't another breathing exercise you'll forget about tomorrow. These are deep, transformative practices from cultures spanning the globe, from the deserts of ancient Egypt to the mountains of Tibet, from the temples of Greece to the rainforests of the Amazon, and each one attacks anxiety from a completely different angle. By the end of this video, you're going to understand something that most people never realize. Anxiety isn't your enemy. It's a confused friend trying to protect you with outdated software. And once you learn to speak its language using these ancient techniques, everything changes. Let's start with something that's going to sound absolutely wild, but this technique comes from ancient Egyptian mystery schools, and it's one of the most powerful things I've ever encountered. The Egyptians understood something profound about consciousness that we've completely forgotten in our modern world. They believed that humans didn't have one self, but multiple selves, which they called the Ka, the Ba, and the Ak. And these weren't just poetic metaphors. They were describing something real about human psychology that we're only now rediscovering. Here's how they used this understanding to crush anxiety. When you're feeling anxious, you're identified with the part of yourself that's afraid, that's catastrophizing, that's convinced something terrible is about to happen. The ancient Egyptians practiced a technique where they would consciously invoke a different aspect of themselves, specifically what they called the Ak, which was the transformed, immortal, wise aspect of consciousness. They would literally speak to themselves in the third person, addressing their anxious self from this higher perspective, saying things like, "Why does the small self tremble when the immortal self knows all things pass?" This wasn't just talking to yourself like a crazy person. This was a sophisticated psychological technique for creating distance between your awareness and your anxious thoughts. The genius of this Egyptian technique is that it doesn't try to get rid of anxiety. It changes your relationship to it by expanding your sense of identity. They would actually create physical representations of their different selves and engage in dialogues between these aspects. Imagine setting up 3 chairs in your room. In one chair, you place your anxious self, the part that's worried and scared. In another chair, you place your wise self, the part that's lived through difficulties before and knows you're resilient. In the third chair, you place your higher self, the part that can observe both of these from a transcendent perspective. Now you physically move between these chairs, speaking from each perspective, letting your anxious self express all its fears without judgment, then moving to the wise self to respond with experience and compassion, then moving to the higher self to observe the whole dialogue with detachment. This sounds strange, I know, but try it once when you're feeling anxious, and you'll be shocked at how quickly it shifts your state. You're externalizing the internal conflict, giving each part a voice, and in doing so, you realize that you're not your anxiety, you're the space in which anxiety appears. Now let's jump to ancient China and explore a technique from Taoist philosophy that's completely different but equally powerful. The Taoists had this concept called Wu Wei, which is often translated as effortless action, but that translation misses the subtlety. Wu Wei is about aligning yourself with the natural flow of things rather than constantly forcing and controlling. Most anxiety is actually exhaustion from trying to control things that cannot be controlled, from swimming against the current of reality. The Taoists developed a practice called returning to the source, based on the observation that anxiety is always about multiplicity, about being pulled in 10 different directions. The practice involves repeatedly asking yourself, what is the one thing? What is the source beneath all these concerns? You might be anxious about money, your relationship, your health, your career, but if you keep asking what's beneath all of them, you eventually arrive at something more fundamental. Usually a fear of loss, a fear of not being enough, a fear of being alone. something core and singular. When you can identify this source fear and really sit with it, really feel it fully instead of fragmenting it into 1,000 different worries, something profound happens. The anxiety doesn't multiply anymore because you're dealing with the root instead of constantly pruning the branches. The Taoists also practiced following the seasons of energy, which was their recognition that everything, including your emotional states, moves in cycles. In modern culture, we expect to feel good all the time, and when we're not, we think something's wrong with us, which creates anxiety about feeling anxious. The Taoists rejected this completely. They observed that nature has seasons: spring for growth, summer for abundance, fall for harvest, winter for rest. When you're in a winter season, whether that's depression, anxiety, or just a period of introspection, the Taoist approach isn't to fight it and try to force yourself into artificial summer. It's to ask, what does winter require? Winter requires rest, reflection, going inward, conserving energy. When you stop fighting the season you're in and instead ask what this season is teaching you, the anxiety about being anxious starts to dissolve. You're not broken. You're just in winter, and spring will come. It always does, but only if you allow winter to do its work. Let me take you to ancient Greece now, but not to the Stoics because everyone talks about them. Let's talk about the Pythagoreans, who developed profound psychological practices. One of their core practices was called the examination of the day, and it was far more sophisticated than just keeping a gratitude journal. Every evening before sleep, a Pythagorean would sit and mentally review their entire day in reverse chronological order, starting from the present moment and working backwards to when they woke up. And they would do this with incredible detail, remembering conversations, actions, thoughts, and feelings. And here's the key: they wouldn't judge anything as good or bad. They would simply observe and ask, was I in harmony or discord in this moment? When they found moments of discord, moments where they were reactive, fearful, or anxious, they wouldn't beat themselves up. They would simply visualize how they could have responded differently and mentally rehearse this alternative response. The brilliance of this practice is that it does several things simultaneously. First, it creates conscious awareness of your patterns, because most anxiety is unconscious and repetitive. By reviewing your day in detail, you start to see these patterns clearly. Second, by going backwards instead of forwards, you're disrupting the normal narrative flow of memory. Third, by visualizing alternative responses, you're literally rewiring your brain, creating new neural pathways for how to handle anxiety-provoking situations. Fourth, by doing this right before sleep, you're allowing your unconscious mind to process and integrate these new patterns while you dream. The Pythagoreans believed that sleep was when the soul could commune with higher realms, and modern neuroscience confirms that sleep is crucial for memory consolidation and emotional processing. Now let's explore the tantric tradition from ancient India, which has been massively misunderstood in the West. The tantrics had a completely radical approach to anxiety that goes against almost everything we're taught. While most systems teach you to overcome your anxiety or get rid of it, the tantric approach was to dive directly into it, to intensify it, to ride it like a wave until it transforms into its opposite. They called this the path of transmutation, based on the insight that every emotion is ultimately just energy moving through your system, and energy can be transformed but never destroyed. Here's how they practiced this. When anxiety arose, instead of trying to calm down, a tantric practitioner would find a private space and intentionally amplify the anxiety. They would breathe into it, making it bigger. They would allow their body to shake and move with it. They would vocalize it through sound. They would follow the sensation of anxiety in their body and breathe directly into those places. What the tantrics discovered is that when you stop resisting anxiety and instead move toward it, when you make it bigger rather than smaller, something unexpected happens. It peaks, it crests like a wave, and then it crashes and transforms. The anxiety literally transforms into a different quality of energy. Sometimes it becomes sadness and you cry. Sometimes it becomes anger you need to express. Sometimes it transforms into its polar opposite. Anxiety becomes excitement, becomes aliveness, becomes creative energy you can channel into action. This is the tantric principle of polarity. Every emotion contains its opposite, and by fully experiencing one pole, you can access the other. The reason most people never experience this transformation is that they resist their anxiety at about a 3 out of 10 intensity, never letting it get strong enough to crest and transform, so they just stay in constant low-grade anxiety forever. The tantric path says go to 10, go all the way, but do it consciously with awareness, with breath, and discover that on the other side of the peak is freedom. Let's travel now to the indigenous wisdom of the Amazon, where shamanic traditions developed an entirely different approach. Amazonian shamans understood anxiety as a form of soul loss or spiritual intrusion. When you experience trauma or chronic stress, parts of your soul can fragment and split off, or you can take on energies that don't belong to you. This might sound like superstition, but it's actually a very accurate metaphor for what modern psychology calls dissociation. The shamanic solution was soul retrieval, where through drumming and entering altered states, they would journey to find the lost soul parts and bring them back. You can practice a version of this without shamanic training by using active imagination. Create a quiet space. Use rhythmic drumming music. Close your eyes and ask yourself, what part of me did I leave behind to survive? Maybe it's the playful part you abandoned to be responsible. Maybe it's the vulnerable part you locked away to feel strong. Whatever comes to mind, imagine that part as a younger version of yourself, visualize where it's been hiding, and then imagine going to that place and dialoguing with this lost part. Ask it why it left, what it needed, what it's afraid of. Then ask if it's willing to come back, to reintegrate, and visualize bringing it back into your body. The shamans also practiced energy cleansing, recognizing that we accumulate psychic debris from our interactions with people and environments. You have a conversation with someone who's deeply anxious, and afterwards you notice you feel anxious too. The shamans believed you could pick up emotional residue from others, and if you don't regularly cleanse yourself, it builds up and manifests as anxiety. Here's a practice you can do right now. Stand up, take a deep breath, and imagine you're standing under a waterfall of pure, clear light. This light is pouring down over you, washing through your entire body, carrying away everything that isn't yours. Other people's anxiety, environmental stress, absorbed emotions, all of it being washed away. As you visualize this, make a sound, any sound, and allow your body to move or shake as the energy releases. Do this for just 2 minutes, and notice how different you feel. This isn't magic, this is using visualization, breath, sound, and movement to signal to your nervous system that it's safe to release tension and reset. Now let's explore the Sufi tradition of mystical Islam, because the Sufis developed some of the most beautiful practices for transforming anxiety into divine love and trust. The Sufis had this practice called tawakkul, which means radical trust, and it goes much deeper than just believing everything happens for a reason. Tawakkul is about recognizing that you are not the ultimate controller of your life, that there are forces beyond your understanding orchestrating events, and that your job isn't to control everything, but to show up fully and then surrender the outcome. The Sufi practice for working with anxiety was to actively reframe every anxious thought as a question. What am I supposed to learn from this? How is this situation actually serving my evolution, even though I can't see it yet? This isn't just positive thinking. It's a genuine inquiry made with humility and openness. The Sufis also practiced dhikr, which is the remembrance of the divine through repetitive chanting. When anxiety arises, Sufis would begin repeating phrases or chanting divine names that relate to what they need. The repetition serves multiple functions. It occupies the mind so it can't spiral into anxiety loops. It regulates the breath and calms the nervous system, and it creates a felt sense of connection to something larger than yourself. You can choose any word or phrase that represents your highest value. It might be "I am held," or "this too shall pass," or "peace," and you repeat it like a mantra, out loud if possible, with rhythm and breath, until it drops from your head into your heart and becomes a felt experience rather than just a concept. The Sufis understood that anxiety is often spiritual in nature. It's the soul's way of saying you've lost connection to meaning, to purpose, to something larger than your individual survival. Let me share one more tradition, the ancient Celtic wisdom of the Druids, who had profound practices for working with the shadow self. The Druids believed that anxiety often comes from parts of ourselves we've disowned or rejected, and that these shadow parts don't go away. They just operate unconsciously, creating anxiety and self-sabotage. Their practice was to deliberately court the shadow, to create rituals for meeting and integrating the parts of themselves they found unacceptable. One practice was called sitting out, where you would go to a threshold place, the edge of the forest, the boundary between land and sea, somewhere that represents the liminal space between known and unknown, and you would sit there and invite your shadows to appear, not literally as ghosts, but as thoughts, feelings, memories, and fears that usually stay hidden. You would dialogue with these shadows, ask them what they want, what they need, and make an agreement about how they can be integrated rather than suppressed. In modern life, you can practice a version of this by setting aside an hour when you won't be disturbed, sit in a doorway, light a candle, and ask yourself, what am I most afraid of about myself? What part of me do I judge most harshly? Then, instead of running from whatever arises, you welcome it, you dialogue with it. Maybe it's your rage, your neediness, your selfishness, whatever you've been keeping locked away. The Druidic insight is that these shadow parts don't need to be destroyed. They need to be understood and integrated, because each one holds a gift. Your rage might hold the gift of boundary setting. Your neediness might hold the gift of connection. By bringing the shadows into light through conscious dialogue, you defang them. They stop controlling you from the unconscious, and the anxiety they were creating dissipates. Here's what all these ancient traditions have in common. Anxiety isn't the enemy. It's a signal. It's information. It's your system trying to tell you something. The Egyptians recognized it as a conflict between different parts of self. The Taoists saw it as resistance to natural flow. The Pythagoreans understood it as disharmony needing realignment. The Tantrics experienced it as energy needing transmutation. The shamans identified it as soul fragmentation. The Sufis knew it as disconnection from divine trust. The Druids saw it as shadow material needing integration. All of these are true depending on the situation. The power is in having all of these tools available and knowing which one to apply when. Sometimes you need the Egyptian practice of invoking your higher self. Sometimes you need the Taoist practice of finding the source fear. Sometimes you need the Pythagorean practice of reviewing your day. Sometimes you need the Tantric practice of intensifying the anxiety until it transforms. Sometimes you need the shamanic practice of soul retrieval. Sometimes you need the Sufi practice of radical trust. Sometimes you need the Druidic practice of shadow work. You now have an entire toolkit. But here's the final piece that all of these traditions understood. This work takes practice, it takes time, it takes commitment. The ancient practitioners didn't do these techniques once and expect to be cured. They wove them into the fabric of their daily lives. The good news is that every single time you practice one of these techniques, even if it doesn't work perfectly, you're building neural pathways. You're training your nervous system to have more options. Over time, these practices compound, and one day you'll notice that something that would have sent you into a panic spiral 6 months ago now just feels like a manageable challenge. So here's your homework. Choose one, just one, of the practices I've shared today and commit to doing it every day for the next 7 days. Pick one, commit to 7 days, and actually notice what happens. Don't expect miracles, but do notice the subtle shifts. After 7 days, you can try a different practice or keep going with the one that worked. The point is to build a practice, to remember that you're part of a lineage of humans stretching back thousands of years who have struggled with anxiety and found ways to work with it. You're not alone in this, you're not broken, you're just human, and you now have access to tools that humanity has spent millennia refining. Use them, practice them, and watch what happens when you stop fighting your anxiety and start working with it using wisdom that has stood the test of time.